Evening, everybody. Taking a break from listening to that CNN Florida governor's debate between Andrew Gillum and a well-spoken Nazi to just do a quick video tonight. Just want to give a quick channel update and then a couple other things I want to talk about. So after Election Day, I'm probably going to be scaling back a little bit, both any work I've done with the video channel as well as with the blog, although that's not that much, to be honest. Not abandoning it or anything, just doing less of it. So I might just do like a show every 2 week thing. Well, it's not even a show. I have like 3 followers. I might be doing a video like every 2 weeks, depending on how things go. Just bit of a transition point in my life, so I gotta put focus on that, and we'll see how it goes. I may be able to do more videos sometimes and less at other, hoping by the new year to have some of that taken care of, and then I can kick it back up. So I just wanted to give a heads up on that. Just gonna talk about really a couple things. With Election Day coming up, the tone of my videos are going to shift a little bit, just because of the immediate need, and then I'll go a little more long-term afterwards. So there was a story out in the New York Times about the Trump administration's efforts to essentially eliminate classifications and recognition of basically of trans people, and the Obama administration, to their credit, had forwarded these things and increased regulation, changed some of the classifications in a series of different departments, and we're now seeing Donald Trump and the Republican Party, which is naturally incredibly homophobic and transphobic, fighting, basically coming back and retracting these and taking us back to the dark ages, so to speak. A lot of that it would be expected with any Republican administration, truthfully, but we've already seen their fighting against allowing LGBT people in the military, and now they're extending it, and in doing so they're basically looking to classify only by birth and basically the genitalia you had as when you were born, and that can affect a lot of things in terms of not recognizing, if in terms of trans people, what gender they identify as, that they wouldn't be recognized, essentially, which is a genuinely terrifying and scary thing, because again, you look at this, what has the Trump administration done essentially is start attacking the most vulnerable populations, in particularly looking at trans people, who are still largely not accepted by a lot of people, and the Republican Party as a whole, and they're extremely vulnerable, and monsters like Donald Trump and Mike Pence and Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell will go after these people, and it's really just par for the course with these people. I hesitate to even call these people because in my eyes they're barely human, but I don't want to sink to a level of calling people under people, classifying people less than people. Everybody's a person. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. But these kind of things are some of the most terrifying thing. I know we see a story every day. God knows what's going to happen tomorrow with a new week. But these are the things we have to be paying attention to. These kind of under the radar things. These are the things that will make people's lives worse, and they're particularly going to affect disproportionately the most vulnerable people. They're not going to affect Donald Trump's friends who have billions of dollars. They're going to hurt people below the surface, people that you may not see every day. That's who they're going to hurt. So this is the stuff to watch for. And even if the Democrats do well, I would not be shocked to see a lot of things done at the executive level, at the judicial level, now that the right wing has control of court, as well as by a lame duck Congress, because, again, Republicans don't have a moral compass, and they will do whatever they want to do. They don't give a flying fuck who it hurts, only as long as it helps them or helps their base. That's the nature of the evil that we are dealing with. And that's really the nature of the evil that is conservatism. It's not, I mean, look through history. Conservatism is an evil ideology that usually will eventually lose. And they will keep pushing until many people rise up, and that's the end of that. But these are the things that eventually we have to see, because this just came out, and to always be vigilant and watch what's going on under the surface. And this should really be an impetus to push for organizing. And we have to see those vulnerable people work together. Be they from a number of different communities, they need to work together and show solidarity. So where I'm going with this is not going to be the end of it. Truthfully, there's been a lot, and it's going to keep coming. And these are test balloons. They're going to keep seeing how far they can push. So eventually they'll go from trans. They've already done some stuff with LGBT people, but they'll keep pushing. Just like they started with Muslims, who are incredibly, it's largely okay to be Islamophobic in modern society. And then next step, they'll push to anti-Semitism. We've already seen some of that. And just like Mexican, they'll keep pushing. So they'll keep going population by population and keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And this is really the modern, the polls, by the way, Trump's approval rating all the while has gone up, and the Republican Party is basically 90% coalesced around him. So, and they're going to turn out. By the way, I have a love-hate relationship with the horse race. As a kid, as I've grown up, I've always had an interest in it. But in a sense, it is largely, I also see it as largely what's wrong with one of the biggest problems, our obsession with horse race. It's a distraction. But speaking frankly, when we go to the midterms, this is the sort of stuff which is why you must vote for Democrats in every single office. I voted a straight Democratic ticket this time. And to be honest, with my views, that's probably usually going to be the case. But I would say, or I would vote for a left-wing third party or something like that. But in this case, I voted straight Democratic. One, there was no real credible third-party alternative in Pennsylvania in this case. But on the flip side, I have my massive issues with the Democratic Party. They are part of the system. They're not necessarily the friend of the left, so to speak, but they are what, in the short term, we have to support in this election, because the alternative is the Republican Party, who's going to do shit like this. Stuff like attacking trans people, attacking Muslims, attacking Jews, attacking African Americans, attacking Native Americans, attacking Latinos, attacking women. I could keep going and going. These are the people they're going to be attacking. So, while Democrats are far from perfect and they don't solve the problems long term, for right now, we got to curb Trump's power. We got to curb the Republicans' power to reduce the amount of harm being inflicted on vulnerable and working populations. So it's really as simple as that. So I don't care, honestly, if you're in Texas, if you're in, Alabama or Mississippi, or if you're in Maryland, where, Larry Hogan has a 70% approval rating, is probably up by 15 points over Ben Jealous. And everywhere I fucking go, I see, these little shit rat fucker Republicans, pardon my language, but these Republican like state assemblymen, particularly when you get to the outskirts of Baltimore City and into Baltimore County, you just see these big fucking boards saying, person X with person X is on Team Hogan, and a picture of Larry Hogan and whatever the random guy is. And this is a problem. You got a lot of Democrats, for example, in Maryland, but in other states too, who seem to think it's okay. Oh, I don't like Trump, but I'm going to vote for Larry Hogan. I'm going to vote for this Republican. I'm going to vote for that Republican. Well, 90% of the Republican Party supports Trump right now. And so if you want to vote Republican, then you are voting for Donald Trump. You are voting for his racism. You are voting for his sexism. You are voting for his homophobia, his transphobia, his Islamophobia, his anti-Semitism, his general hatred of people who make less than probably $1 million, truth be told. You are voting for what he's doing. And hiding behind the fact that, oh, Larry Hogan's a nice guy. He had cancer. He doesn't say things like Trump says. Not going to cut it. Because he will put in, and him and other people will put in, if they have the power for judicial nominees, in the case of Maryland, you do, he can put in a whole bunch of right-wing justices, even though he talks nice. This guy couldn't even say that he opposed Kavanaugh. So he's not your friend. He talks like he's your friend. He's not your friend. All right? And you see it in other places too. You see it in Massachusetts, where their Republican governor's probably going to win, and etc. And I understand the logic behind it, because Democrats, again, are not always the answer. And, it's abundantly clear that they have failed in this state. They have failed in Baltimore City many times. And so this is the thought process. So, I'm going to vote for somebody. He's not Trump. Doesn't matter. The Republican Party is Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is the Republican Party. So, your only way in the election to oppose is to vote a straight Democratic ticket. I will leave this only this kind of exception, though. If you're in a place like Baltimore 40, where you have, I believe it's the 40th district in Baltimore, say, where you don't have any Republicans running, it's just Democrats and a good Green Party candidate, Josh Harris, then you can vote for the Green Party, because there's no threat of a Republican. So that is, of course, the exception. But primarily what you're going to see in national races and what's out there in the news, you have to vote. You can't split your ticket this time. That's just that. And that's a case that should play for moderates. That's a case that should play for the left wing. That's a case that should play for your most radical Marxist, all the way over to your most centrist Democrat. But we'll see. I'm a little bit apprehensive, truth be told, because Republicans turn out. Their demographics are those demographics that turn out really well. And they may not be excited, but they turn the fuck out. Now, the good news is the Democrats are energized, and the left will be turning out this time. So I think that will mitigate that, and there will be gains, as we've seen in the polls. But I fear, will they be to the level of what's projected? And even what's projected is somewhat mild. It would be a wave, but it's not going to be the tsunami people talked about long ago. Now, again, I'm not into voter shaming. Never have been, never will be. But in this case, I mean... what else can you say? I mean, there really isn't an option. Long term, we got to fight for better electoral options, as well as better, we got to organize. But this is just a fact. So this is really my case for saying you got to bite your tongue if you have to, or if you don't have to, don't, and you vote Democrat. And then after the election, we will figure it out. Now, that's not going to preclude me from criticizing Democrats. And we shouldn't, because they are still part of the system that is meant to really crush a good chunk of the country. and put them into basically a state of Stockholm syndrome where, and I saw this in South Carolina, where people are almost convinced that it's not, the rich that are fucking them. It is Mexicans coming across with barely anything in their hands. This is the psychology that we're dealing with. This is what's going on. So you have to turn out, because we have no option here. We can't take 2 more years of unified Republican governments. At least if there's a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, it's not going to be great. And a few more Democrats at the state level. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be perfect by any stretch. But you would see some pushback on these kind of issues, like trans rights. You would see some pushback when it comes to women's rights. And these things are absolute of paramount importance. Okay? You may see some opposition to the really blatant economic stuff for the rich. So this is what and you could stymie, maybe give some of those Senate Democrats some backbone to stymie Trump's nominees, because he's getting a shit ton of nominees and filling the benches with young white men of a radical right-wing persuasion that will be setting our country back to the 1950s. So that's all I got to say about that. But just make sure to vote. Follow what's out there. Keep an eye on your deadlines, and then vote. And after the election, we'll keep going, and we'll keep working on the Democrats too. But they'll at least reduce the harm of what's happening. So that's all I got to say tonight, and have a good night.